my name is Beck and welcome to another Booktuber's reaction video where this time I'm watching Elliot Brooks's favourites from 2021 and seeing what favourites she has compared to what I have and seeing ultimately if our reading tastes kind of combine. I do watch a lot of Elliot's videos and I think that we do have crossover reading taste, but I couldn't name the specific books that I know we like. I just know that I've had a few that I've tried that I know she loves that I haven't loved, and that includes the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I read The Ninth Reign and then I ended up putting it down because it wasn't for me. So I'm really hoping that I find some new favorites, but let's get into this video.
Hello friends. So today's video is going to be a list of my favorite books of 2021. Jumping into my favorites, a little bit of an issue I had when trying to make this list is I only have a few books that I'm like, these are new all-time favorites. Oh my gosh, I'm having a book hangover. You know, all of the hype over these books and all of those really dramatic reactions. There's only a few that I had those feelings for. I apologize because I feel like this video is redundant. You've heard me probably shout from the rooftops about these books. The first one, just getting it, I was gonna say getting it out of the way, but that's what the case is gonna be for all of these. Winnowing Flame by Jen Williams. I read Ninth Reign last year, loved it. Read The Poison Song and The Bitter Twins. I mixed those up. It's the other way around. But I read books 2 and 3 this year.
I already mentioned this before the video even started because I just knew they'd be on this list. So it's very lucky they came up first. I DNF'd The Ninth Reign. The writing style just wasn't my vibe, so unfortunately I just didn't connect with it the way she did, and I'm hoping that this doesn't set the tone for the entire video.
Can you guess what the next couple are gonna be? Let's start with Flamefall. So Flamefall is the sequel to Fireborn. I loved Fireborn. It's a political fantasy that follows what is basically a fantastical version of the Russian Revolution. We have a character who's kind of like the Anastasia type, where their family was a part of the ruling class, and then their family was killed by people who were leading the revolution, and this child went missing, and people believe that this child died. That character's name is Lee. And he grew up in an orphanage after everything that happened to his family. Then we have a character named Annie, whose family was killed by Lee's family when they were in power. So Annie also ended up in an orphanage, and then these two characters meet as children in this orphanage and become friends.
I've read this book. So I gave it, I think, a 4 stars. For a young adult fantasy, it was quite well put together. I mean, so in terms of the way it detailed all the politics and the world building. Usually when I read a young adult fantasy, there is a particular strength, and that strength lies on its main character, and that character often feels very fully fleshed out, and there's usually a love story in there, and that feels like the focus of the book. But in this book, there were those things to attract obviously YA kind of audiences, but it also went and fleshed out all the side characters and the themes and the world building. So I have a lot of respect for this book, but I only liked it enough to finish book 1, and I don't love it enough to continue. So the first 2 on this list, I'm lucky I've already read, but I'm also sad that I've already read them because I'm setting up like a negative tone against her favorites already, and I want to discover some new books to me that might end up being amazing.
Next up, we have The Bone Shard Daughter and The Bone Shard Emperor. I read both of these in 2021 and loved them. So the first one, there's 2 main characters.
Oh no, I've read this as well. This was also on Murphy's favorites. So I feel like this is where Murphy and Elliot cross over. And I was worried about this. I was like, oh, is Elliot gonna fall into the bracket with Murphy and Daniel? Or is she gonna fall into the bracket with Reagan and Emily Fox? And I'm like, I feel like she could be in between, but she's really feeling like she's more so with Murphy and Daniel. And I know that they go into books with a more literary focus or a historical focus or a political focus, whereas I prefer books with a deep character focus. And so reading books that are a little bit more plot heavy, I'm like, oh, this is not my thing. So not that they're not my thing, I do love a good plot, don't get me wrong, but I think her taste might be a little bit adjacent to mine, and every now and then we might get one that crosses over. So I'm still hoping that on this list there is something that I end up finding.
Another book that the more I think about it, the more I was like, oh, I really liked that. And that would be Spinning Silver. And it kind of sneakily ended up on my favorites.
I gave this book a 2 stars. I liked the other one by Naomi Novik, the one in the forest, Uprooted. I liked that book. I didn't like Spinning Silver, but I don't really like fairy tale retellings. I don't think we like the same books, at least not if we're just judging on a favorites video. But I do watch Elliot's channel and we do have crossover, so I promise I'm not lying.
After that is where I'm like, I don't know. Everything else, like those were the standouts for me. And then there were so many other books that I really liked, but I don't know that there's any specific fiction books that I felt quite the way I did about these. But the problem is, the Winnowing Flame trilogy, I read the rest of the trilogy. Flamefall is the sequel to a book I already loved, and then the Bone Shard Daughter and Emperor. Bone Shard Emperor is the sequel to a book I loved, and I happen to have loved it also in 2021. So it's that I got to spend more time with, I think, a lot of these characters, and I got to see the conclusions to certain things, or left off in really exciting places, but also because of sequels, it meant that I got to spend more time with characters. And so the majority of the books I've already talked about had an advantage too over so many other books. I did a video about some series that I want to continue on with. Basically everything on that list. I enjoyed everything on that list. So we have something like Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. She Who Became the Sun I thought was phenomenal. I really enjoyed The Witch's Heart. I thought Six Crimson Cranes was so precious. Black Sun was very fast-paced.
I mean, I have Shadow of the Gods. I also have Black Sun. Maybe they're the two that are gonna save it for me. I have seen that She Who Became the Sun is a bit more of a literary fiction kind of focused fantasy, and I don't think I would like that kind of vibe, so I'm gonna avoid that one. But at least I've got two on my TBR here that cross over with the other booktubers that I've looked at so far. Black Sun and Shadow of the Gods. But I think both of them, no, Shadow of the Gods was just Daniel Green, and then Black Sun was Emily Fox. And on that note, the video ends, and I'm like, I've kind of read all of these, except for obviously Black Sun and Shadow of the Gods. I've kind of done the dash on Elliot's favorites already, and I feel like I should have seen this coming given that I've seen her other videos, and I kind of predicted what she was going to like because I've already tried Winnowing Flame and Fireborn. So I feel like I accidentally got ahead of myself with this video. So it's kind of an anticlimactic end to this kind of series because now that it's approaching middle of the year, I want to collate all of the books that I haven't read on these Booktuber videos and then go and try them out. So I wanted to do Elliot's video as my last one and then hopefully read all of the books that they've kind of recommended to me in the second half of the year. So for Elliot's list, I don't really have much, which is good because I already accidentally did the readings. So past Beck going to uni would be surprised that I did the readings ahead of schedule, but there you go. Let me know if you've read any of these as well. I'd be interested to know. Thank you again so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it, and I'll come and chat to you in the comments. Bye.